Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are good, depending on where you're watching me. Welcome to our class. Today, I decided to pre-record this video because, as you know, I'm not available, but at least I did not want you to miss the class. So we are focusing on, today on while loop. So what is while loop? While loop, basically, it's let's assume you are writing a piece of code which you're going to be having to repeat maybe n times and many times depending on what you are looking for. Let's say, for example, you're capturing marks for student, and then you have maybe 20, 50 students. So you're going to have to repeat that question, enter mark 50 times. And then if you are writing, depending on number of students, if you have to write one line at a time, it's going to be such a lengthy code, and you don't want that. So you want just to write once, and then it keep on looping it, repeating it, depending on the number of times. Once that number is reached, then you exit the loop. Okay. So now let's try to put a context to it. Now, to put a context to it, this is a flowchart of what I'm talking about. So you have a test condition. Test condition, basically, it's you are counting up until what? You are counting up until when, or what is it that you are checking for before? Once you reach that particular condition, then you exit it. So whenever the condition is true, you'll keep on repeating whatever that is in your body. So in our case, it could be maybe you are capturing the marks, or you are counting the number of students coming in. So as soon as you reach that number, then you exit, and then you terminate your loop. Okay, now to put a context to what we are saying, to make it make sense. So let's assume you have, this is the question that you are trying to solve. You're asking people to write a C++ code that calculate the class average of 5 students. In our case, let's just use 5 before we go any further. Let's just use 5, right? Depending, let's assume the test we just wrote, and then you want to take 5 students, they give you their marks, and then you calculate the average. So you need to be asking the person, please enter the marks, please enter the marks, please enter the marks, please enter the marks. As soon as I have 5 marks, the code will stop, and then you're going to calculate the class average and tell you, like, for these 5 students, the average is maybe 50% or 80%, depending on how good they did in the test. Okay. Now, flowchart wise, this will be our flowchart. Obviously, we're going to start by declaration. You declare M will be used as marks, sum, and then obviously sum, that's why you're adding all your marks together. And then at the end, you're going to have to calculate the average. And then N is the counter. That's the one that will be counting how many students you captured so far, because you need to keep on counting it. Okay, I've captured the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. As soon as you reach 5, then you're out. All right. And then initialize, you can see here I'm saying sum is equal to 0 and n is equal to 0. This is because I want to start counting from somewhere. All right. So I want to start counting from 0. So I'm starting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 will go out. So 4. So as soon as I reach 4, count 5 students, capture 5 marks, then I'm out. Okay. Now, that is now why here we are testing. Remember, we say you have a test condition here. If you start at 0, so it has to be less than 5. So you can take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's 5, it's going to be mark number 6. So if you count, so we're going to see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 must be out. As soon as it reaches 5, you can't capture that one anymore. But obviously, you can do it in different ways. Somebody can start counting from 1. In that case, you're going to say less or equal than 5, because you need to use also your mind, okay? If you stay from 0, it has to be less. If you count from 1, then you're going to have to say less or equal to, because you can use your fingers just to test that out, all right? So as soon as the number is less than 5, then yes, then it means it hasn't reached 5 people yet. What you're going to do, you ask the user to enter the mark, and then you capture the marks. And then what you do is that whatever mark that they're going to enter, you add it to sum. So remember, we're starting sum at 0. Check out the initialization. We started sum at 0. And then you capture the first mark. It's going to be 0 plus that first mark. The second mark will be the first mark plus the second mark. That will be your sum. The third one will be, obviously, you see what I'm saying. So you're going to be the first mark, the second mark, the third mark, all the marks together up until you reach what? The mark number 5. Now, to make sure that you don't miss that, what we do is that you adding also 1 to your counter. So you start the counter at 0, and then you add 1 every time you capture 1 mark. And then after you do that, you loop it. So you go back and check again. Is n less than 5? If yes, then you ask the user to enter another mark. You add that mark to your sum, and then you add the 1 to n. And then it's going to be incremented by 1 again. So it was 1, now it's becoming 2. You go back, you loop again. Is n less than 5? Yes. Then you go down again. You keep on doing this. As soon as it's 5, then it's going to go out. What you do, decide, you calculate your average. Obviously, your average will be sum over 5. And then you output that particular average, and then that will be the end. Okay, so I hope you're following that. So if not, please pause, replay this video, and then see just until you understand that. Okay, so keep on repeating this loop 5 times, whatever number of time, until you finish. Then you come out, and then you do what that is required for you. Okay. All right. Now when it comes to the pseudocode, it's straightforward. You just look at your flowchart, and then you just talking to it as we are speaking in English. Remember what we said last time. So you just make an English statement out of it. So you declare your sum, you declare your average, set sum and n to 0, repeat 5 times. What are we repeating 5 times? You are repeating enter the mark, input marks, add m to sum, increment n by 1. So you repeat this 5 times. So once that is done, you set the average to be what? Sum divided by 5, and then you display the average. Basically, that's it. Now, the most important one is this one to me. So I want you to see this over even the pseudocode, because you need to understand how to write this code. Okay, now, obviously, the top part and the bottom part, as I said, those are standard. You don't change it. Okay, and then you do your declaration. So you declare your m, you declare your sum, and you declare your average, just like we did on the flowchart. And then from there, as we said, you set your n to 0, and you set your sum to 0. This is initialization. So you initialize this card. And then now we write our while loop. Remember what we were checking? We're checking if n is less than 5. What do we do? So remember now, the while loop also, it has its own curly bracket. Now, what is inside the while loop? Now, what was inside the while loop? What's this? Please enter a mark, and then you capture the mark, and then after that, we add that mark to sum. And then what we were doing, we were also adding 1 to n every time. And then once that is done, you go out of the loop, you calculate the average, and then you display what? The average, the class average is that. So I hope this makes sense. Just try to see this again. Take a pause this, try to write it as well. Try to write it, and you can change some variables here. Just try to change it when you are writing the code. Try to change a few things and see how it works for you. Okay, try to make it 10, try to change it to maybe, and try to make it a bit fun. Just try to play around and see. But first of all, try to run this one and see what it's going to give you. Okay. Now, this is a little bit a fun one, which I love asking questions like this, as you know. So you have a question that says you have a DP which is calculated by test 1 and test 2. And then test 1 is only 30% and test 2 is 70%. And then they ask you to calculate the DP of 15 students. So basically, each student will be giving you their test 1 and test 2 mark. And then based on this, the percentage, you need to tell them like, okay, test 1 you get this, test 2 you get this, then your DP is this. Okay, you must do this using a while loop, and they want you to use a addition and multiplication function. All right, as I always say, take some time to understand the question. It's always okay take some time to understand the question. So once you understand the question, it will be fun. All right, so I won't do the flowchart for you, but it's going to be something like this. I want you to fill in everything in the flowchart. Okay, just see what you're going to be in all of these boxes, what you'll be putting in all of these boxes, but it's going to be something straightforward like this, and then you fill it in. Please do that, and then let's see what it's going to be like. But I'm going to give you the code, so we'll go through it step by step. But the flowchart, I want you to do it. Okay, please do it, and then next time I see you, you're going to show me what you came up with. All right, now when it comes to the code now, as I said, the top and the bottom part, it's always the same. And then since we ask to calculate using addition and multiplication functions, these are standard. We did that in the last chapter, so you know how to do that. You declare your functions like that, and obviously you've got your main function, and that is where we are doing everything. And then what do we have there? I just put these variables, so you can put whatever, but for me I just call them like that. Okay, and then I initialize my counter at 0. Okay, now because we said is for 15 students, that's why I'm checking if n is less than 15. Okay, and then as I said, the while loop, you've got your curly bracket there and the curly bracket here. Now what do we have inside our while loop? Okay, we're going to ask the user to enter the test marks for the first test and marks for the second test. They give you that, and then based on that, now you need to calculate what their DP using these functions that you just declared there, which is add and multiply. So now how do you do that? So L is the marks for the test 1, so we say 30% times test 1, M 70% times test 2, and then the DP now will be your sum of test 1 and test 2, and then that's how you calculate your DP. Okay, and you see I just use functions that I just declare, and then from that, what you do is that you now tell the student your class mark is this, and then after that you're gonna now loop this 15 times. So you ask enter test mark 1, enter mark test 2, and then you calculate the DP. You said your DP is that, and then you ask them again, enter mark 1. So you're gonna ask this question will be repeating 15 times. And then for it to do that, it means every time you need to add 1 to n all the time. So keep on adding 1 to n all the time. And when it reaches 15 students, it's going to go out and then it's going to say, this is the end of our calculation. All right. So I'll stop here for a minute, and then I want you to do that. Try to write this code, and then we will see how it's going to go. Like just to write it as well. And then if you don't understand, go back, pause my video, and then replay where you have to, and then let's see how it's gonna go like. Okay, so yeah, thank you, and then the next part we will see in class what you're gonna do. Okay, thank you.